Yeah.
they're realizing that we are serious wrestlers
Yeah.
and not just, hey, let's do bra and panties matches. So my dad was a avid wrestling fan. Unfortunately, he passed away in April, but
Ugh.
the whole thing, he was very much into wrestling and things like that. And he got me into it,
Huh.
me and my brother. But I'm the only one that actually became the wrestler. But we both would go to we all would go to events and things like that. Like I've been to a Raw, a Rumble, when we were living in Florida and things like that. And that's kind of what got me into it. And at first I wasn't 100% wanting to, because at the time they were divas and I'm a big girl, so that
Yeah.
wasn't for me. And I knew I probably wasn't gonna ever make it. And then my dad kind of introduced us also into the independents. And that's when I was like, oh, there's this whole other area of wrestling that most people don't know. They just know WWE. And right now it's WWE, AEW, and TNA. And now that everybody's opening up with the indies, people are knowing that now. But back when I was a kid, that wasn't the case. You just have
Yeah.
to almost find it. So when we got into it, I was like, oh, then maybe I can do this. And then I kind of deviated from that dream a little bit because I'm an artist. So I was like, oh, I just want to
All
go to
right.
art school. So I went to college when I graduated. And then as I was going through college, I still wanted to do art, but I was like, I don't want to do graphic design. I don't want to do any of this. This is boring. I don't know what I really want to do. And then that's when I was like, I believe it was when they brought back Tough Enough, when Mandy Rose was on it and everything. And that's when I was like, I want to do that instead. And so at the time I was with my mom and my stepdad, and I was like, hey, I want to record this and see what happens. So I did do a recording thing of it. And then that's when I just kind of sent it in and hope for the best. And obviously I didn't get it, but I was just like, that at least is my first taste of it. Cause the NXT Black and Gold honestly was where it really pushed me to want to be into it. So thanks to the Four Horsewomen,
Yeah.
because they were the ones that really helped me go, oh, actually, I do kind of want to do this.
Yeah.
And then I basically graduated college, and then I moved to Arizona, and I was like, all right, the first thing I want to do here is not only just get a job, but I'm going to go find and see if there's a wrestling school here. And that's how I found where I'm at now, which is the Arizona Wrestling Federation. And I started in about 2016, 2017. And that's when I haven't really left since. I'm still
You've basically you've never looked back since then with it.
Yeah, pretty much. I never look back. It's one of those things that I'll look back and be like, wow, without this, I don't know where I honestly would be. It's I can't think of anything else but wrestling.
Yeah, I mean, it's quite interesting that because we've interviewed quite a few folk on here. I don't know if you know the Big Rig Brian Colton's been on, Jules
Mhm.
Bradley. You might know, are some any of these ringing a bell?
Yeah, they kind of do ring a bell. I do
Yeah,
recognize their
and
names.
Eliza Hayes, and they're all people they came to it a little bit later, which is kind of what you because we always associate any kind of sporting activity. Oh, you got to get in there when you're
Yeah.
12, 13. But there's this interesting thing I'm finding, especially within it's people who come to it a bit later in life also report they had severe mental health. Is that ever something you had problems with? Or
I would say I have, but it's more so I don't think wrestling kind of gave me that escape, but at the same time, mostly art did, because
okay,
art is the way I was able to and get out those feelings and really understand. And but wrestling itself does give me that, but it gives me that escape from just as some people would say, from the reality, because reality kind of sucks. So
yeah,
you have that way
yeah,
of going into your dream, because your dream is basically what eventually can be your reality. And if you push it there, then you have no, then reality is looking great. And to me, I have mental stuff? Yes, because that at that time, my parents
yeah,
were divorcing and things like that during the time of me being in high school. So a lot of that ended up being wrestling ended up saving me through all that time to kind of tune out all that stuff, because I am the oldest of my dad's 3, so I had to take care of them too. So
all
it's
right, yeah,
having to really do all that and, be the kind of the parent mother figure for my 2 siblings, and then I also had to take care of myself because 'cause I'm a
yeah,
teenager trying to go through high school, figure out
yeah,
what I wanted to do. All that kind of culminated, and I wrestling eventually, have basically made all those, that the mental blockage and all that stuff, it kind of made it smooth itself out over time. So, yeah, for sure. Because I got into the business when I was 20, 122. Like,
Okay.
it was right before my
Yeah.
birthday in May, so, like, yeah, I was about, like, 21, 22 when I started.
Yeah, because it's crazy, we talk about that in sports that, oh, people say that's old to be getting into sport, but
Yeah.
it's really not. But it's good that wrestling gives people these opportunities so much.
Yeah, it just has this pull to it, and it's, like, one that I can't even explain of, like, what it is, but it's just something that has always pulled to me, and that's why I've been with it ever since, and I haven't really looked back. It's like and even if I had, like I got injured a while ago, and, like, I was out for 6 months, and even then, I was like, "Oh, I wanna get back into wrestling, and I wanna get back to wrestling, but my wrist is broken. I can't lift anybody, so it's like I can't do anything." And, like, that was the problem is, like, I still had the itch even after I was injured, and it's one of those things of, like, something like that, like, that's how I knew, like, the passion was still there, like, I wasn't, like, having that whole, "Oh, it's time for me to quit, like, I hurt myself, I might as well just leave," or, like, going through a whole depression of wanting to, it's just like, "Oh, no, I wanna get back, but, like, I know for a fact I can't do anything, but I'll just go, it'll be fine." So
You also mentioned there, like the indies,
uh,
especially. Growing up, I was used to mention you watched a lot of WWE. You mentioned there wasn't many women like you in terms of shape, but also, you're a woman of color as well. I mean,
yes.
how important was that in the indies when you just saw people literally quite like you in, your body shape and your appearance? Like, how powerful was that for you when you first saw that?
It was very powerful because it made me realize that, like, there's more than just what I
Yeah,
was used to seeing on TV.
yeah,
Now, I know, like, Jazz and Jacqueline, when they were in the WWE, like, I automatically, like, connected with them. I was like, "Oh, cool." But, like, they were smaller than me, and they were
yeah,
also shorter, so it's like, it's not like I couldn't, like, relate to them fully, but then in the indies, I definitely saw more, and then that's when I kind of got into, Awesome Kong, who I do get
yeah.
compared to a lot too,
All right.
but, like, I started watching her because I started seeing her around, and then that's when I saw her also in TNA and everything, and then eventually when she did get to WWE briefly, like, I was like, "Oh, there is someone like me here. I can probably
Yeah,
do this. This would be cool."
yeah,
And, yeah, it was very powerful because and I think that's, like, the big thing for a lot of us wrestlers is when we get to hear that kind of stuff. Because I still hear that now being a wrestler, is that, some of the trainees who come through our school too, they were like, "Oh yeah, I was watching you at the show and like you inspired me to wrestle." And I'm like, I'm just like a small faction of here."
yeah,
Yeah. But then also like also hearing like some people who are about my size being like, "Yeah, I saw you wrestle," and like that kind of inspired me to like want to actually get into this and asking me questions on how to get into it because I travel so much, especially around the Southwest, a lot of them see me and fans come up and ask me questions, and then I have little kids being like even though they're a little terrified of me because they see me throwing people and screaming and stuff, they'll still come up to me and be like, "Hey, like, you're so cool. I wanna be like you when I grow up." I'm like, "Cool. Stay in school," like most wrestlers would say to them, because like, to me, that's important. But, like,
yeah,
I'll tell them, like, "Yeah, you could do it. Anything's possible if you just put your brain to it." Like, that's what I did, is I literally was like, "Oh, I'm gonna go for it, and if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out, but if it does, then I still win." So
yeah. Yeah, because it's funny you say because in doing this show, there's obviously some of my workmates, and they've asked, and I think I remember one of them was a mother, and I showed her it was a clip. Do you know Heather Blue at all? Does that name ring a
yes,
bell?
yeah. Actually, I know
And
another yeah.
I showed her the clip of Heather and some of her fights, and like it was more the fact that this little girl could also be a badass, and a heel. That was really because obviously girls are brought up to be sweet and innocent, some quite often, and even just like that, being able to play a villain, that's just so we can do what we want. We don't have to be boxed in all the time.
Yeah, no, we don't, and that's the thing is, like, out of the ring, like, me, SOS is, like, very nice and kind and introverted, but then when I'm in the ring, I'm a whole different person, and some people don't even recognize me half the time when I'm acting like that, and they'll be like, "Whoa, I didn't know you were like that." I was like, "Yeah, just happens in there. I don't
Yeah.
do any of that out here." It's
So,
that's like I like being nice.
and with that, like, was it quite easy to find that character then, or did it take time, or did it just
It took
did it
it
just come out of nowhere?
No, so the story that I've told is that this gimmick was given to me by my trainer. I did not come up with this one because I couldn't think of one. I didn't wanna just be me because like I said, I'm nice, I'm introvert. It doesn't work. Doesn't work with how I look because I'm built like a monster, so I have to be one. but, like, I could not figure out what I wanted to do because I was struggling, and this was, like, months before our actual student showcase that I had, and he was like, "Well, why don't we do something unique?" And I said, "Okay, what?" And he goes, "Go watch the movie Split." And I was like, "Wait, what are you talking about?" Because I knew of the movie Split, I didn't watch it then. He's like, "Just go watch it and figure it out." So I went to go watch it, and I was like, "Oh, he wants me to do a split personality gimmick." I was like, "Okay." But he's like, "You're smart enough for it." And I took it as a compliment. I was like, "Oh, okay, like, thank you." But, like, yeah, I did all kinds of research because, like, it's based on a real actual mental illness, and I don't like being a person where if I'm giving something like this, that I take do it offensively, because at the end of the day, like, I'm doing something that's aggressive, and a lot of people already put a negative connotation on a
Yeah.
dissociative identity disorder as they're aggressive, and they're not. So that's how I came up with SOS is it's Skye, Olivia, Storm. So with the 3 personalities, I developed them over time because I really struggled on figuring out what I wanted them to be. But the way that we figured it out is Skye is a very aggressive, like, kind of like angry teenager that wants to fight everybody, but she's very protective. Olivia is very sweet. She's the inner child. She's very childlike, wants hugs, wants gummy bears all the time. Like, that's why Skye in my promos notes about it all the time. Like, Olivia, you can't have any gummy bears. It's not a meal.
Yeah.
And then Storm's very much the very, very quiet one, who, like, is very, very aggressive. Like, she's just one that's just if you could really, like, take a very, very nice person and they have all that anger built up, Storm is essentially that when she comes out, she explodes. And, so I don't use her often in the ring because of that reason. Hers is, like, I have to be very specific with, and
Yeah.
I built them that way because I wanted them to be unique, and I wanted to showcase that I can do essentially what is 3 different characters in 1 character. And my trainer was like, "Hey, let's try this out. If it doesn't work, we will go with a plan B. I will figure out with you." And I said, "Okay, fine." So we went through months of figuring it out, and it worked the initial for the showcase where I was basically Olivia hugging people. I had a small bear who I actually still have. I just don't use it anymore, but a small bear named Hugs. And I had him the whole time, like in the corner. I would hug the ref. Like I was doing all of, very nice, sweet stuff. But then when I go to wrestle, like you see this big badass, just like aggressive, like pole fighting people, throwing them around. Like I was doing all this stuff. And then afterwards, we basically sat down and was like, all right, we have the character established. We just need to develop it more. And so I went and started looking up characters that I enjoy, like Storm from X-Men. That's where Storm actually is based off of. And I went through all other characters and that I liked and tried to piece them and connect them to the characters. And that's how I've developed them over time to where they
Yeah.
are now. And it did take a long time. I feel like I took double the time of what most people would because this gimmick is so complex. And also, like I said, I want to do right by it by not being offensive because the moment it seems offensive, that's where I've already told myself I'm changing it. And I've already put myself like that's the time I'm changing it is if something is any offensive to anybody that actually does have it, I don't want to do it anymore because I don't want to be offensive to anybody. Because like some people, being a person of color, they make fun of us. So it's like, I don't want that to happen in retrospect of what I'm doing. But yeah, that's essentially how the character was built. And it did take a long time, but overall, like the main part that just really took the longest time is to really establish character with the fans because it's a gimmick that's very hard to convey in the ring to people. And I had to find subtle ways to do it, and now that I have, like, a lot of the fans are picking up when I'm switching or when I'm doing this, that, and the other to make it essentially like they're like, "That's Skye this time. Oh, there's Olivia." Like, "Oh god, there's Storm. We probably all should back up."
You
Like
don't have to sit back.
yeah, yeah, like, everybody like, a lot of the fans, especially here in Arizona that know me very well, they all, like, have picked up on it finally on how it works, and that's what I wanted. So now, like, I don't have to, like, really note their names too much. It's they just pay attention to the facial expressions, which is, like,
Yeah.
what I wanted. So, yeah.
Or it's a subtle change in posture or something that gives it away, like
Yeah.
in body language. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, because it's something like, when I'm meeting on wrestling, they don't really pick up on you're essentially doing like all these different kind of crafts in a one go. You're
Yes.
doing basically stunt work live, which is, a feat, and you're also doing improvised acting. you're doing kind of pantomime acting, almost doing like a stand-up comedy routine sometimes with an audience. And
Yes.
then you got to go and cut promos, which is another, like, most people are just lucky enough if they could do one of those really well. Whereas you have to be this multidisciplined person. It's like the more I kind of study wrestling, just astounding. Like, it's so much to take on.
Yeah, no, it's like it's definitely a lot, and it's even more so because it's not even just like the promos, it's what we wear too, and then how
Yeah,
we talk and how we present ourselves
yeah,
out of the ring to fans and stuff too, and we have to, like, be disciplined in all that because it's one of those things that a lot of people don't understand what goes into it until they finally get into it, and when they get into it, it's like you have to be into it for, like, a few months to finally realize, like, there's more to this than just throwing people around or throwing yourself around. It's like it's essentially what I tell people is, like, it's a second job that you're literally having on the job training consistently, and, like, you're learning over time and developing over time with it as well. So it's like, yeah, it's a lot, and I tell people all the time, like, that don't wrestle, like, my family and stuff, because they barely see me because I'm wrestling every weekend, but, like, they're like, "Well, what do you do on the weekdays?" I'm like, "I go to work, I go to training, I go home, I do gym, like, I do research, I do merch stuff." And they're like, "Do you not have time for yourself?" I said, "I have, like, 30 minutes." Like,
yeah.
it's like, for the most part, I sit there and just, I just do wrestling, like, that's pretty much it. I don't do much else. So, it's like one of those things that's almost your life. So,
And is it and are you definitely kind of person you just want to be involved in wrestling till your last breath?
just no, they just decided to die the moment you start talking. I was like, "Oh,
Yeah.
okay."
No, I was going to say, you seem like you're very passionate about wrestling. Is this something you just want to be involved with in any capacity until, your last breath almost? Would you just want to?
Yeah, I really do. Because I know right now, because I've been in this for basically a decade, and as a wrestler, like, that's great, but then I I'm just now starting to train people at the facility here, which has been very nice, and, I'm very grateful for that kind of opportunity to be offered that. But I know, like, after this, my whole idea is, like, if I had to hang up, my boots, it would be to train to offer, help with, like, graphics and things like that for
Yeah.
merchandise, for posters, things like that of that nature, because to me, like, that stuff is just as important as the wrestler. If I could manage, that'd be cool. If I could do, head production, that would be cool. I don't think I would be a promoter per se, because from just even being on the sidelines of doing production meeting or production stuff, I could tell promoters are very stressed all the time, and I don't think I could handle that well in that regard of, like, how they handle all that. So all props to any promoter that has to deal with that stuff because I can't. But yeah, I feel like after, doing wrestling being a wrestler, I think I absolutely would stick around to it with it to some capacity
Yeah.
and just be able to kind of pay it forward through that way. Because 'cause I'm paying it forward now just by training, other people, but I feel like the other avenues there's any there's a lot of avenues for
Yeah.
in wrestling, and a lot of people are like, when they train, they don't realize that until, like, you tell them, like, "Yeah, there's production, there's all this media stuff, there's all this cool stuff that you could do, that if you can't say you really don't think you could be a wrestler, but you could be other things, there's a place for everybody to some capacity." And so that's where I would feel like is like, there's places for me, so I will find my way to be there, in order to kind of continue providing, my love and passion for wrestling and paying it forward that way.
Yeah, it's interesting what you just said. You almost quoted word for word another guest we had on, Bobby Roberts, he's called, and he runs a promotion here in Scotland called Respect Pro Wrestling. And he has that ethos, like, come along, we will find something for you. If you've got a talent, it can be put to use in wrestling in some capacity.
Yeah, it's one of those things that a lot of people don't realize that there's more avenues in wrestling than what they see on the TV.
Yeah,
And the thing is that if they look beyond just what's in the ring, you have, like, camera people that are around the ring, and then you have people who are photographers that are around the ring. You have, like, some people, in WWE, they'll reference the production truck. So, like, there's actual production there, and then, like, now that we have, like, Unreal, you see that there's writers and all this other stuff. So you can tell that there is more aspects to wrestling, and people dismiss it because, they see it as like, "Oh, it's not really a real sport," but it's like, it is and it isn't.
yes.
It's as I tell people, it's a performance art. we
Yeah.
perform, and it's an art in itself because yes, well, yes, it seems like it's staged, we still do the sports aspect to it. We have to. You can't just halfway do it. And that's why
Yeah.
I'm like, that's the aspect. And I'm like, even if you say you don't want to do that wrestler thing and you're just like, oh, that's not for me, that's something that can just wave off. Then it's like, okay, well, what aspects do you other that you have? Are you a writer? Are you a graphics designer? Are you really good on the mic? Do you want to do commentary? Do you want to announce? Do you want to do this? Be a backstage interviewer? Like there's avenues for everybody. And that's like something I consistently like or essentially preach to in the school is like if there's nothing if wrestling's not for you as being a wrestler, we can find somewhere for you because there is an avenue somewhere. And if it's not here at the school, I can find where you can be because I
Yeah.
with the amount of travel I go through and the amount of people I know, there's always somebody that needs somebody. So
Yeah. Because it's what we're saying there about the legitimacy. Because well, here in Scotland, I don't know if you know, we have this big arts festival in Scotland, the Fringe Festival. I don't know if
mhm.
you've ever heard of it.
No,
You may or may
that
not.
sounds cool
But
though.
it's like what basically it's focused usually on stand up comedy, but it's also theatre and performance.
Mhm.
And I follow a lot of Scottish wrestlers, and they've decided, the group of them, to put on a stage show called Ragnarok, which is basically the Viking tale of Ragnar, and they do it through music and live wrestling on stage to do the stunts. Suddenly, critics are giving us praise for what we've done.
Yeah, it's interesting, yeah, because I feel like sometimes that's all it takes is, like, that kind of thing for them to be like, "Okay," and it's like, you could've just gone to a show and you would've seen the
Yeah,
same thing.
it's like it's not that different to what we do every weekend.
Yeah, like, yeah, it's interesting, and it's, like, it's so fun to make fans out of non-wrestling fans, and it's happened a lot, especially recent from what I've seen is, like, some people end up stumbling upon it because like, I just was at a show yesterday at a brewing company, and it was outside, and it's just at the brewing company and stuff, but, like, people who go there ended up sitting and watching wrestling, and some of them
Yeah,
became fans all of a sudden.
yeah,
And they're just like, "Yeah, we never watched wrestling before, but this is really cool," and blah, 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 and they're, like, asking questions about wrestling and, like, wanting to follow us and, like, follow the company and just, like, actually go watch wrestling, and it's like, that's how you do it, is, like, some like, little things like that, that kind of little shows like that usually end up opening a door for a wide range, and that's something that needs to happen, is just like with art festivals, sometimes all it takes is that for you to get new fans and just end up actually opening their eyes to the doors of, "Hey, this is wrestling, this is more than what you've been dismissing."
yeah. Because there's a friend of mine, he said, "This is the way I do it, is ask people, me a wrestler, just any wrestler." And so
Mm.
they usually go, maybe, I don't know, Hulk Hogan, Warrior, or Macho Man. I said, "Describe him to me," and then they'll discuss it. "Notice you didn't actually mention a single wrestling move." I said, kind of almost getting at what it's about, because a lot of it is, it's the character. Without character and story, that is the real heart of it all the time.
Yep, literally, that's literally it is, and it's like one thing that I tell people all the time that, like, that should be our strongest point with being a wrestler is not just the moves. The moves are great, but, like, the moves isn't what they're gonna remember. They're gonna remember you, and they're probably gonna remember, like, the storylines that you're in or something like that. And, like, it's just one of those things that's why I'm so passionate about the wrestling. It's like I got into it because I like the storylines, I like the characters. Like, Undertaker was, like, one of my favorites because
All right.
he's dark and brooding and, like, he does all the cool stuff. And, like, my favorite thing is when I forgot which Mania was it, but he was, like, gliding down the ramp. And I was like, That man's not real." Like, he's gliding down the ramp, not as a kid, you don't know, like, the whole semantics of it all, and then when I got older, obviously I knew what was happening, but, like, that's something that drew me is, like, something him, like, his character himself drew me to, like, wanting to watch him more, and some people are like that, is, like, they'll be like, "Oh, yeah, The Undertaker," and blah, 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 and, like, they may reference his streak, but, like, they reference the streak because that's all that matters. It's not the moves within it or particularly not who he faced, but it's like the streak itself is like cemented because it's like it was a consistent Mania storyline. So it's
Yeah.
like, and that's what I love about it.
Onto the representation aspect of this as well. I don't think what I thought was like, probably back years ago for women as well. The problem was the lack of storylines they got. It was almost an affair, a love triangle, and like I would take it that's progressed a lot as well. Like you're getting
Yeah.
actual. proper, meaningful storyline that don't just focus around, oh, this hot guy. We're all
Yeah, no, I most of my storylines have been, like, none of that. I don't think I've ever had I personally have never had a love triangle storyline, but I've had ones where I think my very first one was against my other teacher, who ended up, like, leaving the business for a bit, but she was, like, trying to pass the torch, and the whole idea was that I was just this cocky student of her that was a bad guy that was just like, "Oh, I beat all these other students because all the other students are smaller than me, and I'm just, like, throwing them around acting like, crazy," and her having to kind of, like, reel me back into reality kind of thing, and then, there's this one student that we helped train that I was helping her build her character through the feud by driving her crazy because I am technically crazy. I just don't know it, but I'm driving her psycho, and
yeah,
I ended up driving her crazy. And now her gimmick is basically she's psycho and she's toxic. So it's like I have these very in depth storylines that promoters have been very gracious enough to be like, "Hey, these are the storylines," and then talking to me and my opponent or opponents about how we're building it, and I'll bring in my ideas, and they'll be like, "Oh, that's really great, blah, blah, blah." Mainly because I'm trying to, like, tell them, like, "Hey, I wanna use how my character is to really, like, solidify what we're trying to do instead of just me being this big bad and this monster." It's like, I wanna build that layer of that character, and that's why I'm very fortunate to not have those kind of storylines yet of the love triangle. If one pops up, I wouldn't be too upset. I just hope that, like, it's not like like a super, super focus of like some crazy, like the how it
yeah.
was back in the Divas era. Cause as much as like some of it was kind of like low key interesting, some of them just it was very repetitive. And it was like very consistent. And it was something that I didn't like as a kid because I was like, no, I just want to watch them wrestle or I want them to just like do something else like the guys are doing their storylines. Why can't they have those? So yeah.
Yeah, no, it's quite. I got a question came in there. It's a very simple one from Teresa. Just what's your favorite move?
To take or to give? That's the question because there's different ones. I think my favorite move to give, if I had to choose one, because there's 2, it's the Samoan drop, because that I love giving to people, it's very simple, it's very easy for me to pick them up and slam 'em down. But I think my favorite to take that I've taken is a, Saito suplex, where it's from the side and they like, almost like you're doing the headlock and they just literally throw you over. It's my favorite because every time I've done it, people have been concerned that I've gotten hurt because the way I land, but
Yeah,
I land safe enough that I don't get
yeah,
hurt. But they just go, "Oh my god, are you okay?" After I like go to the back, and I'm just like, "Yeah, I'm fine. What do you mean?" And they're just like, they'll replay back that clip because I land and then I flip myself over, and it's like something that doesn't happen naturally. It's something that I just managed to do one day, and I just like I just I've been doing it since, and so it makes the other person look like they killed me. So, so and that's what I want. So,
yeah.
but
I'm
yeah, I would
just
say those
curious
2.
there. So it's just like they say that a lot of wrestling is learning to fall with style and learning how to fall. How long did it? Because I went to some judo classes, and that them that the first and it was just your mental instincts kick in, telling you to get your arms out, like, and they're saying, no, you've got to let it. How long did that take for you to get used to, like how to fall properly?
I would say at least maybe like a month or so
Yeah,
because like I had never done a sport where I had to really fall like that, and your brain does automatically want to grab backwards or like or just like if you do, it's like maybe your elbows or something. But like, yeah, it was very difficult for me to like not want to catch myself, or if I like want my hands to land, I have to wait till I land at the same time, and I'm just like, what do you mean I have to catch myself? And so it definitely took a bit, and it was interesting because the first time I did do it, they were, like, teaching me from going on the ground and actually learning how to, actually do the motion, and I was like, "Oh, okay, that part's easy," but then when you actually go and try and do it, that's where the freak out happens because 'cause you're falling backwards, and you're like, "Oh, no," and, like, it took a bit just so then your brain just gets into the habit of, like, "Hey, don't catch yourself, just wait, just wait, just wait," and now, like, even now, like, every day, if I had a moment one time, like, like, outside of wrestling, I was just, like, walking or something, and I think I slipped, and I actually bumped myself, actually hit. I actually landed, and I landed as if I do in wrestling, and, like, without that, I think I probably would've broken my arm because,
Yeah.
like, naturally, you wanna reach back, and if you reach back in the way
Yeah.
like, had landed, I think it actually would've, like, injured me. But I kinda, like, let myself fall and just been like and I sat up and I was like, "Well, that hurt my back, but wow, okay, I guess this wrestling stuff actually is saving my life to some degree, so thanks." But yeah, like, it took me a bit, and I know, like, other people, it can take longer. There was a girl who took I think she took a few months just because she got into the habit, and she's so used to that, and she was so scared to fall, and I was trying to tell her, like, "You have to let yourself like, you have to trust yourself." It's like a trust fall. You have to trust yourself that you're going to hit the canvas, you're gonna hit the mat. It's fine, like, the mat will catch you. You just have to let yourself fall. So, yeah, it's an interesting thing to see people's, like, trust in themselves of not catching
Yeah,
themselves.
because in a weird it is that kind of confidence building you're going through.
Yep,
Kinda get
absolutely.
over your natural that's what you it's essential, and then after that, it's then having trust in your opponents, what they're gonna do. Did that take a while? Because sometimes you're wrestling a complete stranger and you have to completely trust they're gonna pick me up and throw me and land me in a safe way. Is that was that quite a did that take quite a while to get used to as well?
Yeah, 'cause, I'm very much a person that like I said, I'm an introvert, and I also have social anxieties, which is, like, the
Yeah,
worst combo with wrestling. I wanna be inside all the time, but then I have to be outside to go wrestle, and then I'm known to be a good talker, but I don't like talking, like, it
yeah,
makes me nervous. So, like, meeting new people, it does make me nervous, but, like, once I talk to them, I usually am at ease. But yeah, the trusting of a stranger and wrestling them, it does get a little nerve-wracking, but then sometimes if I know their name or know who I end up facing, I go and research them to see, like, what moves they do or what they do, and that kinda leaves me at ease, but if they're, like, new and they're, like, new to the business, I don't see anything, I'm like, "Okay, so I'm gonna keep it very simple, we're not gonna do, like, moonsaults, we're not gonna do anything crazy, no pile driver, like, we're not gonna do anything crazy." Just so that I can feel them out, because that usually will help me feel them out, and if I can't like, if that's the case, like, I let them we'll work the match and, I'll feel them out how they are in the match, and that tells me, like, confidence level, like, "Okay, they could probably end up lifting me, they can probably do this, they could do that," and then that's usually how I can feel confident. But yeah, like, it's because I have social anxiety and, like, all and I'm just an introvert, it's so difficult for me sometimes to, like, not be nervous of meeting new people, but, like, I get excited, especially if it's somebody that, like, I've watched before or I've been following them that I'm finally, like, getting the chance to wrestle them. That's when I'm like, "Oh, okay, this is even better because I know who they are," but at the same time, I'm very nervous because like, what if they can't pick me up? What if I do something wrong?
yeah. So I'm taking from that you're very much, you prefer, like, matches to flow rather than you have a structure in your head when you go in. Is that your preferred
Okay,
way?
I have learned both,
Yeah.
so I'm very adaptable.
Okay.
If it's with like a storyline, because like I had a storyline that's continuing from like yesterday. That one we structured just the beginning, just because we're setting up what's supposed to happen in October for us. But outside of that, I usually ask the opponent what they prefer. I'm like, do you wanna talk the whole match over? Do you wanna structure it out? Or are you good with just us going with the flow in the ring? And if they prefer one or the other, I usually go with what they're comfortable with, because I don't wanna make them uncomfortable, be like, "Oh, yeah, we're just gonna talk about it in the ring, it's fine." Because some of them aren't used to that. Some of them are trained to do the structured way, which I am perfectly comfortable with. But I know and I usually tell them like, "Hey, if something happens in the match where something in our structure we either skip or something happens and you don't know what to do, come get me and tell me you don't know
Yeah.
what's happening and I will help adapt." Because if there's one thing I know I'm very confident is I know how to improvise midway. Just because I know if something happens, I know how to adjust. And so that's something I'm very confident in that if my opponent can't do it, that I'm able to help pick up that part of the slack and help them out to make sure our match is, pretty is decent enough that the fans will enjoy it. And so I will do that part. And I'm like, if anything, I'm like, if anything, just get the ref. The ref is there to help us too. We could talk to each other through him. It's fine. But yeah, like I'm very adaptable. So like I prefer to like, go with the flow with like, maybe a little bit of structure, but I usually just adapt on who my opponent is
Yeah.
because not everybody is, like, the same. So I try and just adapt on how they feel.
So I remember, I think it was it Macho Man was infamous. He would send like almost a book to his opponents, extremely detailed, and some of them were like, "Oh my, how the hell are we going to pull all this off?" But yeah,
Oh god. Yeah, yeah, I do remember that, and I'm not like that. I feel like, my way of building structure kind of, like, maybe is
so the,
30% of that,
yeah,
maybe, but, like, yeah, I had an opponent that was like that, where it was very detailed, and I was like, "Oh, this is the first time I've had someone like this. Okay,
yes,
I can work with this," and, like, I told them, like, "Hey, if I forget something in this whole thing, like, I'm sorry." It's like, it's a lot for me to, like, to process, but
mm,
they were super cool about it, but yeah, like, there's people who are like that, and I'm okay with that as long as they're aware, like, "Hey, we're wrestlers and there's always a time
yeah,
that we'll mess up. So don't, let's not be hard on ourselves if we mess up somehow. Because we're human. So
yeah. And I'm just curious, actual guys, do they tend to be a bit resistant to a bit of improv, or do they tend, or do you find maybe after a few minutes in the ring they start to warm up to it?
it's dependent on the person. I know a few they kind of have loosened up, but there are some that like they aren't, and they'll either freeze
All right.
or they'll hesitate, and then I have to go and like take over.
Yeah.
And kind of be like, "Hey, listen to me. We'll get back to the spot. Just listen. Listen. I'll get us back to where we go." But yeah, like some of them they'll usually like relax and go cuz like I usually just tell them like, "Hey, as long as you know your move set, you're fine." Like that's how we can improv. Is just know your stuff and then I'll get us back to it or you'll get us back to it. We'll be fine. But yeah, it's been like a mixed bag on either one. I haven't had a lot that are able to like be super strict with structure, but there are quite the few just because that's all they've been taught and that's all they've been around. So when you are like that, it unfortunately they don't get the opportunity to be able to go with the flow and be able to kind of learn to adapt. And that's like something of why like when they work with me, I try and teach them that through the match. So when we get that way and also talk to them afterwards of like, yeah, this is how I do it. So then in the future, if this ever happens, this is how you can adjust yourself. So then they at least get a little bit of learning experience of working someone like me that knows how to like adjust as needed.
Yeah. So it's basically, it's like most other things. You never really truly stop learning, do you? It's like
No,
nearly
I'm
every match
learning.
is a learning.
Yep.
You learn
Yeah.
from every match, do you? Yeah.
I learn from every match, whether it's from my opponent or I learn from myself of like I did something. I'm like, oh, that's cool. I never did that before. I actually like that. Oh, I'm gonna take that. I'm gonna make it all nice and pretty and put it in my next match or something like that. Yeah, like I'm always learning.
I was going to say, what's your one moment where you were just like, wow, I can't believe I just did that? Was that like you were really stunned, something you improvised?
So I have this thing. I don't know if you've seen a lot of my matches, especially when I'm a bad guy. I'll put them on the rope and I will make them wave at the camera or wave at the fans. I just randomly did that one day in a match, and I did it, and I let go, and it almost was like in real time of the camera looking at me that I was just like, "Oh, that was really cool. I wanna bring them to the other one and do it again." Like, 'cause, like, the fans were reacting, and I was like, "Oh, that's interesting. I never knew that was like a big like that would give a big reaction." And I just like I randomly just did it. And that's like how like when certain things like that happen, I get like it's just like this huge light bulb of like, oh, now I have to use it. Now I have to use it this way, and this is how I want to use it. And yeah, like that was my big like that's cool. Like I didn't know I could do that.
Yeah, it's very like it reminds me of the John Cena story when they were like, "You're technically great, but you've got no gimmick." And I think it was one day that he was listening to rap on his headphones, and he just started.
Yeah.
They went, "There we go, we've got you now."
Yep.
And then that's that. I said, and then they said, "Oh, they can't see you. What do you do?" And then he just went, and they
No,
went,
this
"That's
thing. I don't
amazing,
know.
yeah." And it's weird how just all through life, just some of these things we come up with, just stick with you, and you realize that's really cool. Don't know where that
Yeah.
came from. Yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
I'm just I'm going. Kenny's had a question, two parts, so we'll just go. You the favorite match of your career so far,
My favorite match of my career so far. I know she's kind of controversial because of the whole thing with AEW, but me versus Nixon probably was my favorite match. I wrestled Nixon Newell. I love her. I have been adopted as her wrestling sister after that match. So, yeah, like my match with her was like my by far one of my favorites so far, mainly because and before that, like I worked Abaddon and like I worked Priscilla Kelly inside of Brookside, and like those gave me measuring sticks, but I don't know why, but that one really did that a lot for me, and I think it was mainly because me and Nixon were like, as much as we were doing wrestling moves, we also were playing to character, and she like, I told her about mine, and she was like, "Oh, we're gonna use that," and we did, and, like, it was hilarious, and I that's why I love her so much is, like, I just told her, she's like, "Yeah, we're gonna do this thing, it's gonna be great." And it worked out where the fans were like they first were confused, but then the moment we did the spot of like she just like slapped one of my personalities in which like obviously you can't see them, but she pretended to slap one of them. And like my reaction and her reaction made the fans go, you just messed up. And then that's what started the match. And like that part in itself of just the character aspect, like she really like wanted to play that up and really like worked it. And I love that. And that was like something that like I will forever be grateful for with her is because she like is like me, like, oh, what's your character? Like what are you about? So I can like play it up versus like,
yeah,
oh, we're just gonna do moves. Like we're just gonna throw each other around. We're gonna do a pile driver, blah blah. Like, no, we were doing, like, very, very good, like, character work with each other and playing off of each other. And I think it also happened because I was the one that, like I picked her up when she started, when she came down. And when she came down, like, the first, like, 5 seconds, I think that's how we just became best friends. So, like, I think that also helped play into that. But, yeah, I think that's my favorite match so far,
yeah.
I think.
And this the second part of Kenny's question: who's your dream opponent, past or present? Anybody at all?
I have 2 because I
Yeah,
haven't decided, who would be my top one, and it is Bailey and Charlotte.
right.
Mainly because they're, like, the 2 that really got me, like, officially, like, wanting to wrestle because I watched them in NXT Black and Gold era, and I was like, I love these 2. I'm gonna watch them a lot and learn from them, and at that time, like, Charlotte was learning more about herself in wrestling at that time. So, like, learning from her and seeing her progression as well with all that, I was like, "Oh, this is actually neat," and, like, learning all that stuff, and yeah, those are, like, my top 2. I have a whole list, to be quite honest, but those are, like, the top the top 2 that, like, I know, like, if I ever got the opportunity somehow to wrestle them, I would absolutely, like, with no question, say yes.
Yeah. So just going back onto another topic here. Sorry, I'm jumping around again. Still think like with regards to the representation and all that, do you still think there's still a lot of progress to be made even at indie level, or do you think it's still, the W well, obviously WWE's still got a lot of big issues there, but like at the indie scene, do you think they've kind of got it mostly right now in that regard?
I think that the indies there is still a lot of work to be done, I would say there is, but I feel like it's just because there's a lot of work because we with women's wrestling and just, like, wrestling in general, for female talent, it was already, like, behind, and the fact that we have someone like myself or someone like, like Zeta over in AEW, Mercedes, Bailey, like, we have all these really, really good talent and all these different variety of talents and great minds in wrestling in the women's space, like, it's it's progressed a lot faster than probably people thought it was going to, but there is always work to be done, and people like us that are currently active in running these circuits, especially the independents, we're still paving that way and really showing that, women's wrestling is just as strong as men's wrestling, is that we're one and the same. It's wrestling as a whole. We're all pro wrestlers. And I could definitely attest that a lot of the times when I am like at shows and I am, wrestling, there's a lot of fans that are like, I used to not really watch women's wrestling until like I saw your match. And now like I really want to watch it. And like that kind of like aspect really like it really solidifies a lot, and it makes me feel good because that means, like, I'm paving the way further of, like, making people really see women's wrestling because a lot of people back in the day used to see it as like it was a bathroom break, and now it's no longer a bathroom break because they're realizing that we are serious wrestlers and not just, hey, let's do bra and panties matches. It's not
Yes.
that. It's, hey, we could do other stuff. We can do hardcore matches. We can do tables matches. We can do ladder matches. We can fight with a broken orbital bone. Like, we can do all this other stuff
Yeah.
that, like, the guys have done too. Like, we are just as tough as them, if not probably tougher. I don't know, but, like, that's like, it's arguable, but, like, at the same time, it's like that's the thing is, like, it's progressed very well, and I think it could keep going, and we always have some aspect of it to push. And I feel like as long as someone like myself and the others that are currently
Yeah.
in the space, whether on the main leagues or in the indies, there's always, like, someone moving
Yeah.
the goalposts to keep us going.
Yeah. Yeah, it's good because we're seeing a lot, with obviously the culture wars and that, sometimes the move towards more diversity to be more inclusive, there's a backlash to it. You've not really experienced that. Are they quite open to all this in the indies? Like when, there's a bit more of a push towards a better representation.
Yeah, there's some backlash that I've noticed, but it's not, like, huge where how it is, I think, on the main,
Yeah.
like, with the main 3. I would say, like, if it is, it's not outspoken enough, it's probably
Yeah.
more quiet.
Yeah.
But it's a like, have I seen it before? Of course. I have seen it, before. I've seen it I mean, I see it with certain people who
Yeah.
comment about me and my size, right? Because
Yeah.
they're thinking like, "Oh, women's wrestlers, they need to be skinny, they need to be muscular, they shouldn't be, like, big." And I'm like, "Well, I'm big and muscular because I can lift someone your size probably." So, like, they don't notice that until, like, they see that,
Yeah.
but, like, it's yeah, like, there is some backlash with some
'Cause
inclusivity, but, like, it feels like there we should include anybody and everybody as long as,
yeah.
they're a good person, they're passionate about the space. So,
Yeah, because I always find that really interesting when they go on about, bigger women in wrestling. So, well, look at Andre the Giant, and he was celebrated. No one ever questioned his size. And just going back at that first bump, how did it feel when you took your first bump? What was it like?
it sucked. I remember I just kinda, like, laid there and I was like, "Ow, okay, well, this is gonna be great." Because like, I've done martial arts before as a kid,
Okay.
so, like, getting hit in the back, like, I've gotten kicked in the back before being, in martial arts and stuff. So it's like, it's nothing new, but, like, it's a different hit is what I
Yeah.
tell people, especially if they've done martial arts or, like, done, jujitsu or anything like that. I'm like, "Yeah, it's a different beast, guys, like, you think you could take it, but it's different." But yeah, it wasn't, like, super bad, it was just one of those, like, it took the breath out of me because I forgot to breathe out, and they didn't tell me. So I was, like, the whole time down, and then I hit, and I was like, and they were like, "Yeah, you're supposed to breathe out." I was like, "None of you guys
Yeah.
told me this."
Yeah.
So
And are you finding it now, it's like when you maybe go a few weekends without doing wrestling, that's when the pain creeps in? Is that if you're doing it every weekend, then you're not feeling it as much? I've heard a
no,
few of them say that.
you can. I would say, yeah, you don't feel it unless you go out, you go through some time without it. But, like, there are times there, depending on what I've done that weekend, there's some I will feel like days later, and I'll be
Right.
like, "Oh, I can't. Oh, this is gonna be a struggle to get up." Like, I'll feel it, and I'll be like, "Oh, what did I do?" And I'll remember what I did in the match. I'll be like, "Oh, yeah, okay, now I remember why. This is why." So, like, I go to a chiropractor, like, every 2 weeks because I wanna make sure not only am I tip-top shape, but also that I'm not in a lot of pain because we hit our back quite often, and so, like, that's something I wanna maintenance myself on.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, like, if I go a few weeks without wrestling, I'm gonna feel it. Like, I know the holidays coming up for November, December here. I know for a fact I'm probably gonna end up feeling it because there's gonna be a couple weeks that I'm not gonna be wrestling, and I'm gonna feel it, and I'll be like, "Oh, okay, I should've just, like, I should've just wrestled," like,
Yeah.
instead of just taking a break.
And I'm guessing generally now, like, trainers do actually, how am I wanting to phrase? They do actually invest more in your kind of long-term health. Like, I think notoriously back in the day, it was just, well, here's some painkillers, get on with it. They're actually a bit more serious about, you keeping like injury prevention and maintenance and that. I take it they're a lot
Yeah.
more concerned about
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, definitely, and then, like, someone might like myself, like, with going through the circuit, I tell the trainees, like, "Hey, make sure you take care of yourself, like, if you feel something's off, go to the doctor, don't try and just take some ibuprofen off of it, go to the doctor." I'm like, "Just do the right things for yourself because, it's gonna help the longevity."
Yeah,
And I tell them, like, if there's something off and you're not entirely sure, and it's something like at training or if we're at a show and you know that I'm there, like, come get me. I will like, I can help, like, assess it, or I can get somebody that's very more knowledgeable. Because like, I know in our current school, we have somebody who is a nurse. So, like, sometimes
right.
I'll just go grab her and I'll be like, "Hey, they have an issue, please talk to them." But, like, I know enough, fortunately, with a little bit of medical knowledge to, like, kind of help figure out some
Mhm.
things, and also because I have been hurt quite often, where I've either have been dumb and worked through an injury, or I've taken the break and I just know how to properly maintenance it, that I'm like, "Hey, you have this is what I did, maybe this will help you, but if it's any worse, like, go to the doctor." Because I know, like, current state of affairs is very hard to go to a doctor, and some people get scared to go, especially us wrestlers, because then if they find something else out, then it will take us away from, like, "Oh, you have to take 2 weeks off," or, "Oh, you have to take a month off," or
Yeah,
something for wrestling, and, like, to us, it's like, "Oh, you're taking away our money," like, "No, we can't do that," and that's why some of us work through an injury, and I'm just like,
yeah,
"No, don't do that. Trust me, don't."
yeah. It's again, it's quite. This will be a cultural thing that I feel like all the wrestlers we interview over here, like going to the doctors, maybe not for obvious reasons. Kind of, we have a universal health care, so you know, I think it's always been more encouraged over here. Whereas, for you guys, like, a visit to the doctor can make or break you financially sometimes, can't it?
Yeah, it's a lot, and that's why, like, some of us, like myself, I have a corporate job,
Yeah,
and so I'm fortunate enough that, like, the corporate job itself
yeah,
pays well
yeah,
enough for my insurance for situations like that. I know with my previous job when I did break, because I broke my wrist, that was my
yeah,
injury in 20, I think it was, like,
yeah,
23. It was fortunate enough that, 1, I was working remote, and 2, that they covered a good portion of it because I ended up having to have surgery, and I had to take 6 months away from wrestling. So, like, that part, and I worked remote, and I can work with one hand pretty much. I was just a little bit slower, that I was able to still work, but, like, so other people don't have that. Some people have labor jobs, and some people, like, have jobs that they have to, like, if they had, if they did break their wrists, that they would have to, like, take time away from their job, and, like, that's something that, like, I feel for people for that, and that's why I feel grateful in the position that
yeah.
I've been in. But, like, I know I've seen those medical bills. Unfortunately, I only had to pay a little
It's
bit of
just
them, but, like, I've seen it,
yeah,
it's atrocious. So that's why, like,
yeah,
I try and do my best to be safe and make sure my opponent's safe, because the moment, like, something happens, I'm like, "Oh, that medical bill, that's
yeah.
not that's not fun."
It's just yeah. I'm sorry. It's just not a concept we have in this
Yeah, no,
country.
I understand that. Yeah, no, I understand, like, I hear it from all the time from people who aren't, like, in the U that aren't from the US about it. They're like, "Yeah, universal healthcare and stuff," and I'm like, "I wish."
It's
So then
it's
I mean,
good.
would it be out of pocket like the way it is? Because it's so much money.
Yeah, because here you don't have to say, "Oh, I'm a wrestler," and then they probably put up your insurance if they find out you do wrestling. Oh, that's high risk, obviously.
Yep, yeah, they do. That's why
It's
sometimes
just
I
like
don't that's why most times I didn't.
yeah,
I was just like, "Yeah,
yeah.
I broke it doing something stupid."
But I know we're coming up on time there, and it's been fantastic. So, as always, if people want to reach out to you, they want to follow you, where can they find you?
You guys can follow me on, like, Instagram, Twitter. I do have a Blue Sky. They're all under, Save One's Soul, and that's my handle. If you see any other handle, that's not me. Those are usually my handles. And then if you want to add me on Facebook, follow me on Facebook. The name is SOS, just because I can't just name myself SOS on Facebook, so that's why there's 2. But that's where you guys can follow me. That's where you guys can pretty much find out what I'm doing, where I'm going, posting pictures, videos of everything with wrestling. And that's where everybody can hit me up. You're more than welcome to comment, ask questions, especially if you are interested in within wrestling, you're really welcome to ask questions on about that, about the process and about the journey. So because a lot of people you might be interested. So I'm more than happy to answer any questions. So
All right. And final question we always ask, would you ever want to come and wrestle in Scotland if you got the chance?
absolutely, yes.
Yes.
Actually,
Well,
yeah.
as we keep saying, if yous ever do, we'll be there to meet you off the plane. We can share a nice glass of scotch together when you get here. So
But yes, please.
all right. Well, hopefully it happens one day. We get to meet you. It's been an absolute pleasure. I think we could have gone on for hours there. You've been great, and we just wish you all the best in your future. We'll be watching out for you. So, thanks again for coming along, and thanks everyone for listening. And please like, watch, subscribe, leave some nice comments for our guests tonight, and we'll see you all very soon on the next show. Right. Thanks everyone for turning out. Good night.
Bye.